We can start on time. Welcome. This is the Enhancing Engagement with Cargo Bikes with the DC Public Library session. With us today is Joe Percell, the Outreach Librarian at DC Public Library, and Liliana Garcia, a Library Associate at the DC Public Library. Thank you both for being here today. I'll now pass it to Joe to kick us off. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us today. We're very excited to participate in our first Vision Zero Summit. We're going to be talking today about DC Public Library's use of cargo bikes, and hope that you all can, if you're thinking about using a cargo bike in your situations, hopefully you can get some useful information about how it has worked in our setting. And we're happy to answer questions at the end for anything that you may that may come up as you're thinking, or questions you came in with. So like we said, my name is Joe Percell. I am on the Outreach and Inclusion team for DC Public Library. And
hi everyone, my name is Liliana Garcia and I work at the Mount Pleasant Library. I work mainly with children, but also with the Spanish speaking community, not only at the branch, but also all around the city.
All right, and today we're going to talk to you about our cargo bike. So we're going to go through a few different things. We're going to start with just some basics about what a cargo bike is, in case you're not familiar with them. Then we'll talk specifically about our own bike, and then we'll share some resources and how-tos that we've learned over the years of using our bike. So jump right in. Liliana will give you some background about cargo bikes.
There we go. So what is a cargo bike? If you haven't seen them yet, they have become more and more popular. A cargo bike is basically a bike that is designed specifically for transporting items. Its size and shape can be different depending on the service that will be supporting, or depending on the type of materials that you will be working with. They can exist with or without an electric assist. However, when you are deciding what type of bike you want, it is important to take into consideration where the use that you are going to give to the bike, and how the roads look like, if they are hilly, if they are completely flat. So based on that, make a decision. Also, keep in mind what would make your staff feel more confident and more and safer when driving around. Depending on the use, the cargo box will be placed in the front or the back, and they have become very popular for vending. If you are selling products for transportation, delivery services have started to use it. Also for food, the food industry have started to use it very often. Like you see ice cream bikes, or you can see coffee bikes. They are all around, and they have started to be more and more diverse. As you can see in the next slide, they can be like in the bottom picture on the right, you can see that they are very compact and they can be easily transported. But once you open them, they can expand and offer a lot of space for display. So they can be used for basically anything. In the middle, you can see a picture of librarians moving their book bike, which is really cool, and is the way we use our bike. Joe?
Yeah, so you've seen cargo bikes around, I'm sure, by this point, whether it's parents commuting home, or like Liliana said, there's a couple coffee bikes that I've seen around DC already. So you've probably seen them already, but you may not be aware that they are used by public libraries around the country. So since about 2008, that's the first known use of a cargo bike to distribute books. It was happening in Chicago. And there's some fun history around that I have linked in here. We will be sharing our slides so you can follow our links. But if you're interested in more of the background of how this trend got going, we have Chicago. We have a gentleman in Chicago to thank for this. But it has gained traction around the country. There are quite a few libraries using book bikes instead of a more traditional bookmobile now. You see a couple of examples here from Oak Park and Pima County with their whole fleet in the middle. So DC Public Library, we have been using a book bike since around 2019. We purchased it with an IMLS LSTA grant in 2018. We got our bike from Haley Tricycles out of Philadelphia. At the time, it was approximately $3,500, and we spent about $750 on other supplies, bike pump, locks, various containers to carry things in, et cetera, et cetera. We're happy to share some of more specifics about lists of supplies if you're interested later on. And like Liliana mentioned, it's a good idea to think through if you want an e-assist or not when you're considering getting a cargo bike. We unfortunately did not purchase an e-assist with our initial foray into using book bikes. So it is still a great tool to have, but we are very excited to be in the process of ordering another bike with an e-assist, this time from Icicle Tricycles on the West Coast. And with the e-assist included and shipping, it's about $5,000, just under $6,000 to give you an idea. So like I mentioned, we have a more traditional bookmobile as well, a big, bread truck size vehicle that the outreach team uses as well. So just a little bit about why you're potentially using a cargo bike versus a truck for outreach. Anything you can do, bikes can do better. So from our experience, we have found that the benefits of the bike over the truck, there's less parking logistics to consider. It's much easier to bring the bike to an existing festival and not have to move barriers when you arrive, all of that kind of stuff. It's more approachable from the staff perspective of using it, but also from the public approaching a bike, and it's more accessible. So our bookmobile has stairs to enter and the bike does not. You can roll right up and be able to reach anything because there's varying shelf heights as well. It's easier to train staff, so there's no licensure required to ride a bike like there is to drive a truck. And it's cheaper to maintain and purchase upfront. So these are all just some of the benefits of using a cargo bike. We're using it for outreach and for transportation to events, but there are so many uses, as we've said. So just a few examples of how we're using the bike. So we kind of have it into three categories of different events that we're taking it to. First, we have library pop-ups, which are we're always working with a partner, but this is separate from any other event. So an example would be in the Alethea Tanner Park over in Eckington. We work with an organization, Eckington Parks and Arts, who works to activate that park. One Saturday a month, we pop up with the bike, do a little story time, and are there for a few hours in the park for folks to check out books. Another example of a pop-up would be a partnership with the Admo Bid and the Line Hotel, where we take the bike to Unity Park, and we're there for, again, a couple hours. Folks can check out books, and we do a drag story time with a local performer. So both of those there's not another event happening. It's just the library and the bike with our partner activating the space around town. Next category is festivals and markets. So these are all of your street festivals. There's so many around DC, especially in the summertime. So we have the bike out at the Folklife Festival down on the mall. We have it at Open Streets. We missed this last one though, unfortunately. Typically we have it at Open Streets. And things like the Chinatown Community Festival. The picture here in the middle is from the Lunar New Year parade a few years ago when it was Year of the Pig. The third category would be special events. So these would be things like the Lunar New Year parade. We have we've got a couple partnerships with museums where if they're hosting a special family day, we'll bring the bike. So for example, for the Hirshhorn Maker Mornings, a lot of DC families attend those. And so you can see pictured here, we bring the bike, pop up, check out books, do story times. That's a consistent theme because I'm a children's librarian. So a lot of checking out books and doing story times. We also have gone to the National Building Museum's award days in that capacity as well. So getting into some how-tos. So this is staffing and training is definitely a consideration when you're looking at getting any sort of vehicle. So in a bike context, the way it's structured for us at DC Public Library is we have the Outreach and Inclusion Department coordinates the bikes, the bike and the truck. But our team is very small. There are currently 4 of us. It's typically a team of 6, but we're looking for some new folks at the moment. So the bike has so much more capacity than our small team can really maintain. And so we manage the coordination and training and maintenance of the bike and do a lot of the staffing of events, but we're always looking to get this tool used system-wide. So if you're not familiar, DC Public Library has 26 branches all around the city. And so that's a lot of different staff and locations and neighborhoods who could be using this tool to serve the community. So to that end, we have a training opportunity for staff. Again, DC Public Library uses SMART goals. You may be familiar with a tool or a version of this at your own organizations, but we use SMART goals to provide opportunities for staff to get involved in specific projects or learn new skills. And so for the past 3 years, we have been doing a Library on the GoGo SMART goal. That is what we collectively call the outreach vehicles, the Library on the GoGo. And so with this SMART goal, staff participate in a series of trainings. And then once they are trained, they are able to use the bike in their own neighborhoods in whatever capacity makes sense in their context. So part of that training, we partner with the WABA, the wonderful staff at WABA to do a safety training. You can see a picture of that here. That's another link that you can follow from our slides. If you'd like to read up about that, WABA did a write-up, I think from our training 2 years ago, possibly last year, about that day. Great activity. If you've ever participated in one of the safety trainings, the bike trainings with WABA, they're very fun. There's some little obstacle course training that you do, which is extra fun on a cargo bike. And then after they've completed that training, staff do a ride along where they go with an outreach staff member to an event and shadow and learn hands-on how to use the bike. And then they are able to take it out in their own communities. I'm going to hand it over to Liliana to share an example of how the Mount Pleasant staff has used it in the past few years.
Thank you. So the Mount Pleasant Library branch has used the bike extensively. We love using the bike. We love taking it places. Mount Pleasant is the only library in Ward 1, so we have a huge service area, and having the book available for the book bike available to do outreach is very helpful. It's been very successful in the last two years that we have been more and more engaged, and this is for multiple reasons. So it is a combination of staff who love doing outreach at the branch. We love doing meeting people where they are and bringing the library services to them instead of waiting for them to come to the branch, especially since our service area is so wide. So that's one reason. Another reason is staff members are very knowledgeable of all the services that the system offers. We also do a lot of programming. So having the book bike available at the branch or like available for staff members to take it places allows us to take our programs and promote them all around. So that's an extra and one more reason. And also staff love getting out of the branch and they love biking. So that's an extra, that's one more reason to be successful and to have this book bike as an excellent tool for our library branch. So after doing so many programs using the book bike, we have discovered that we have noticed that it has an excellent influence in like being able to bike around staff, library staff members being able to bike around and like getting places, create a really good connection between the institution and the staff members who are biking around. So you get to know the community, they get to know you, and it is one more reason to attract them to engage with you and with your services. So you get to know the community. We also have noticed that one of the main benefits of using the book bike and like of having this way of having the outreach department in charge of the book bike is that we have been able to collaborate more effectively. So whenever we do outreach with the outreach and with the outreach services department, we get to learn how they do it. We get to learn how they communicate, and it is a great modeling of good practices. We also get to come up with programs together and like collaborate like really closely. So that has been a really good outcome of this of the use of the book bike. Another good something else that came up was the using the book bike has allowed us to create to come up with creative programming. So we usually take the book bike places, but we also come up with ways to attract people to the book bike. So we have additional or complementary activities. We bring bubbles, we bring crafts, we supplement with whatever we have available, the services that we're bringing. So that's also great. One more thing, and I think this one is very valuable, is we have been able to strengthen our partnerships with other organizations or with other organizations. So whenever we go places, we are able to show up and we get invitations, we go, we bring the book bike, and that's a way of showing support and interest for the organization who invites us. Some of those examples have been visiting LAYC, specifically on 14th Street. I am forgetting the name of the place, but we have been to multiple events there. We bring the bike and people get very excited with when they see it because it's eye-catching, it's very attractive, it's a great conversation starter, and the partners love it. So that's been a way of like showing up for others as much as they show up for us. Another example of a successful program that we have done was recently we had a neighborhood bike ride in which WABA supported us with the logistics, with organizing people, explaining safety rules. So that was great to be able to like reach out and collaborate in that program. A lot of families came up, and it was very beautiful to like come together with the book bike, and they were very excited. Another program was the end of the school year. That one is the top picture on the right. The end of the school year celebration for Bancroft. We put ice cream inside. Whenever you ride your bike, people will ask you if you have ice cream inside. And that time we put ice cream inside and we celebrated with the kindergarteners. So it's always very positive. We also, this is a book bike. We usually take giveaways and give books away. People can also take a look and check out some books from the collection. They can also return books. So it is very versatile depending on what you want to use it. So that's been our experience at the library in the Mount Pleasant branch.
Yeah. So like you can see, the bike can be used in so many different ways to supplement the work that you're already doing. I'll just emphasize like one of the big benefits, if you're already doing outreach, if you're already going out into the community, you don't have to carry a table when you've got the book bike. It's all included in there. You've got all your supplies with you, and it can hold the Haley tricycle that we have, holds up to 250 pounds. So you really can bring whatever you need with you. And it's just, in addition to strengthening the partnerships, it's just an eye-catching and approachable tool for the public. I'm seeing a comment in the chat from Tacoma Park has purchased an e-assist from Icicle Tricycles. Great. Shared jointly between the library, the arts division, planning division for public engagement activities. That's a great idea, is to find other orgs that you could share the tool with as well. So thanks for sharing that. Let's get back. Here we go. So we've talked a lot about partnerships. So a little bit of a how-to is how to get the bike out there, how to find the right events and partners to be going to. So the main way that our team has found good events to use, to take the bike to, and build in our partnerships, is just going to the events that are happening in your neighborhood or in the areas that you're trying to get into. So anytime you go to an event with the bike, it's going to start conversations. And typically those conversations will lead to future event invitations, to future potential partnerships. For example, I took the bike, as I mentioned, I took the bike to the Hirshhorn Maker Mornings. I believe that was in March or April of this year, and received an email this past week from someone from the Postal Museum who had seen the bike at the Hirshhorn and was inviting us to one of their events. So just being present out in the community at, whether or not it's a specific event, it can be a farmer's market, it can be a festival. From the Chinatown Community Festival, for example, we were there and had a conversation with someone about coming to their organization with the bike. So really just the more you're out there, you'll find that it's very iterative, this creation of partnerships. And another tool that we use is we have an outreach request form. Oh, it opened, but not in the tab that you all can see. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. So we have a request form. It's just a simple Google form that's up on the website that asks people who, if they're interested, what type of event they're inviting us to. And then there's an option also to ask us to bring either the bike or the truck to their program. So it's nice. It's a good idea to have some sort of visible way that the public can find your bike online and be able to invite to events. And then, of course, creating good ways to, we've talked a lot about pop-ups. So we've found that to be a really great way to engage with specific partners and specific communities around town, is finding a community connection or a community space, finding the people, the community stakeholders that have the expertise about their own neighborhoods, and identifying these high traffic areas and times where the community is out and about. So Liliana had a picture from taking the bike to the Columbia Heights Plaza. If you're at all familiar with Ward 1, you know that that is a very high traffic area, and just getting to know your communities and where they are and when, and finding the right partner that you can take advantage of, somebody who has that knowledge and expertise about their community, so that you can do a pop-up. So for example, the Alethea Tanner story times that we are doing, we tried a couple different times in that park over the years, where we tried a Thursday evening pop-up, and we tried a Saturday morning pop-up, and just kind of compared, all right, there's just a lot more people in the park on a Saturday morning, so let's stick with that one. So just finding, identifying those high traffic times. Sometimes it's trial and error. Sometimes it's just walking around, paying attention when you're out in your community anyways, to find those good fits. And most importantly is to be persistent and show up. So like I mentioned, being present at the event has led to other invitations and to other connections. But as any of you who work with any sort of partnership know, everybody's very busy. There's so many opportunities for missed emails or missed connections, or just things falling through the cracks. So making sure that you're persistent and pursuing, if you have a partner that you think would be a really great fit, or an activity that you really want to do, just, don't be afraid to give somebody a call, send a couple emails, and sometimes even just showing up in the space when there's something going on, to talk to the people who are there and might be able to get you a spot next time. All right.
Yes. So that now I'm going to talk a little bit about how we maintain and keep the bike safe. So first of all, we try to do, we have a maintenance log, and we try to take care of the bike once a month, which is like a regular checkup. We make sure that the chains are good, that the tires are in good shape. But at the same time, we have twice a year, we have a general tune up, where which is usually at the beginning of the busiest season for programs, which is around February before spring, and at the very end of the summer, like October, November, just to make sure that the bike is in shape and that it is good to keep going. So safety is very important, and that's why we try to just take care of it. We also have, so since the use of the bike is system-wide and so many staff members have been trained to use it, we try to stay in communication and remind them to be safe, to still do their practice good practices when using the book bike. So we have a book bike checklist, a safety checklist, in which we include what things need to be confirmed before they leave the branch. That way we make sure they are safe, they make sure they're safe, and everything is in order for their program. So this checklist has 4 main parts. One is the gear. So all the safety items, they need to wear a helmet, they need to wear a safety vest, they need to make sure that the bike has a pump inside, that the locks are ready to be used in case anything happens. The second part is the supplies. So we remind staff members to check that they have all the promotional materials, that flyers are ready, that whatever part of the collection they need to be bringing, they are bringing the materials for display as well and for giveaway. So that's the second part. The third part is the technology. So if your organization uses any specific software, if you need a specific part of technology that will help you do your job and do a better outreach, please include it in the technology. We also have a phone that is always in the book bike, and it is ready to be used if there is an emergency. If the person who's riding the bike needs to be picked up, is always ready to be used. That's one of our safety measures. And we also have a MiFi that we use, so that is free internet access wherever you go. You just need to activate it. You can use it for your iPad, and you can use it for the public. If they need to access the internet, they can also connect to the MiFi. So those are just the pieces of technology that make our outreach easier. And for safety, we ask staff members to check to make sure that the bike is in good shape before they leave. So check your ABCDs, check the air of the tires, check the brakes, check the chains, and also the drivetrain of the bike. So those are like the basic safety items that people need to make sure that they're in good shape before they leave. We also are attaching that checklist in case you want to take a look as an example. And next slide. And lastly, these are some resources in case you or your organization is interested in getting a cargo bike. And like these are the vendors that we used. So Icicle Tricycles, we are buying our new e-assist trike from them. They were very responsive. We highly recommend them. Highly Trikes, where is a business that sold us our current book bike, which has been really good. We love it. For the maintenance options, we use Gearing App and Upshift Workshop. They are here in DC. They are familiar with cargo bikes, so they're highly recommended as well. And the last resource is our checklist, our safety checklist, in case you want to use it. And that is it for me.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Just to show you the checklist. There's also my contact information. So just it's pretty straightforward and just has everything that we want to have on the bike to make sure that you have with you, as well as the safety checklist, the ABC, if you're familiar with bikes. That's all on there for folks to fill out each time they take the bike out. That also helps us share when we, like Liliana said, since there's so many different people using the bike, it's really nice to have a record and a way to communicate with each other. If something were to go wrong on one of the routes, the next person to use it would have a little bit of a heads up that way because of the checklist. When I go in after someone has used it, I know, like, okay, they checked that the chain was a little funny, so I should probably reach out to one of our shops to get that taken care of. So yes, we went super fast, so we would love to hear if anyone has questions. Our contact information is here on this last slide. I answer the outreach email, so that is also me, outreach.dcpl@dc.gov. Also, we follow the DC Gov protocol of first name dot last name at dc.gov for emails. We also, again, you can find a link there to the website where that shows some information about the outreach team. It's with our brand new website. I'm trying to pull that up real fast, just to show you. It's just got some background information about our team, how to get in touch. And then if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, our form is linked there as well. So please, if you have something in mind, go ahead and reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. And it looks like we got some questions.
Yeah, I can get started with some questions. The first one that I have is, there's obviously, well, first, thank you both. That was excellent. Really exciting. I live in Mount Pleasant and I am looking forward to seeing the bike. I love the ice cream bike kindergarten celebration combo. But my first question is, can you talk a little bit more about the decision-making process to getting the bike? There's obviously so many benefits and so many things you can do, but cost and safety are two big obstacles that I'm sure you had to think about for getting the bike. But for organizations that are thinking about investing in a bike, what other big obstacles did you have to jump through?
Yeah, of course, cost is a concern. So like I said, for the first purchase, I think it was well timed. There was a lot of enthusiasm around, the background of how it happened for us is that I believe it was Haley Trikes was at the American Library Association conference, and a few key staff members saw that booth and were interested and started kind of looking at ways to make that happen here. The library has been pretty involved in the biking community for a while, and so it kind of just made sense for us. If you're not familiar, if you're a biker and you're not familiar, we host an annual Tour de DCPL bike ride. That's a lot of fun every May for Bike Month. So I think getting obviously with any new project that's out a little out there, a little different than what you're doing normally, getting the enthusiasm happening within the organization for what the benefits are is a really key piece of it. We tried the first one with a grant, and because it has been successful and has been such a good tool for us, where we were able to get funding for the purchase of the second one more internally. It's coming, the money's coming from the foundation. So it's not exactly a line item in the budget, but it's a lot closer than just some LSTA grant money. So I think the considerations would be staffing, like really thinking through what staff you have available. And if you already have dedicated staff that are going to outreach events, this is a no-brainer from my perspective. This just makes that easier. But if you do not already have that mechanism in place, there's risk that you could get the bike and then not really have thought through how much time and effort is involved in really activating it. So thinking through that, I loved this example from Tacoma Park of a couple different organizations sharing the bike, because that really would make sure that it was getting the use that it can get. That's why we came up with that structure of trying to get branch staff more involved through the SMART goal, is because our team just frankly doesn't have enough time and capacity to use it to the full extent that, like, I would love for it to be out there 3 times a week. And that's just not feasible with 4 people, 3 of whom aren't really bikers.
Amazing, thank you. Our other question was, have any other local jurisdictions expressed interest in getting a cargo book bike?
Yes, I've had conversations with, I'm going to forget who it was, a Maryland county. I think it might have been Montgomery County. I'm sorry, I should have looked into that, but yeah, I've had other nearby library systems reach out to us because they had seen that we had one and they were considering it, and just kind of asked, being able to share some advice, and even just, Haley was great to work with. They're in Philly, or Icicle Tricycles have this advantage, that kind of thing has been great to be able to share.
That's great. It's very exciting. And I also know that you've mentioned multiple times about getting the second cargo bike with the e-assist. That's very exciting. For me, an e-assist is a game changer when I get around. So I was wondering what your goals are for the future of that cargo bike, and where you see it going now that it has an e-assist.
I mean, the main thing for me is just to expand our reach. Currently, so the bike lives full-time at the MLK library downtown, which, if you're not familiar, that's down in Chinatown, Penn Quarter neighborhood, so 9th and G Street, and kind of at the bottom of the hills of DC. So when we take it out to most of our branches, it is uphill on the way there. So the bike, riding a cargo bike is just significantly slower than riding a regular bike, a non-cargo bike, especially without the e-assist. I think the e-assist will change a little bit the timing factor, but currently we're in a position where, for example, when we take it to Mount Pleasant, we typically take it the day before. We can take it the day of, depending on the timing of the event, but because it takes that extra time, because the cargo bike is so slow, that really limits how far we can go with it. Not just the physical exertion of the staff, but also just the time. I know Liliana and some other staff members took it from Mount Pleasant over to like New York Ave, Days Inn area. So like probably 4.5 to 5 miles distance. And it took like 45 minutes. So really just thinking through, like, that's been a major limitation for us. So I have a staff member who did the training this year, who works at the Deanwood Library, and just has such a vision for what that bike could do that neighborhood. And it would take us 1.5 hours to get there, so there's really a limitation on that. And what a way we've tried to get around that is we take the bike to a branch, have it live there for a week, and do outreach within that neighborhood before bringing it back. But the e-assist is really going to change the reach of the bike, as well as having two. We can have one that stays at MLK and can be used by branches that are within neighborhoods within reach of MLK, and then one that can stay at Parklands Turner and be used in neighborhoods around there, for example, and really be able to serve more of the city with the cargo bike.
Yeah, in addition to that, I think that the motivation for staff members will be better. Knowing that there is an e-assist will make it easier for them, or like at least mentally they will be like, oh, it's easier. But knowing that you have to pedal all the hills up is a limitation. So we're excited for the new one.
Yeah, like Stephanie mentioned in the comments, we are going to have the bike set up tonight. If you're coming to MLK for the get together part of this, Liliana will be here. Unfortunately, I have a conflict, but Liliana will be here to show it off and answer any questions in person about the vehicle. So
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
And then I have one more question. It's touching base on what you mentioned in the beginning. I believe you said Chicago was an example of a system that has a cargo book bike. I was wondering if there were other example and this can go beyond book bikes. And I know you briefly mentioned restaurants are using them. And I also have seen a really cargo bikes that are carrying a really impressive load around downtown DC in terms of, think I've seen grocery delivery and sweet green delivery, or just other food delivery. But I was wondering if you had other places, both, not just libraries, maybe for example, restaurants or other geographical places that we can look to as an example.
Yeah, I'm dropping a link into chat. The Pima County Public Library put together a little history research paper about the history of using book bikes in libraries. It's pretty interesting. So that's where the Chicago tidbit came from. So there are definitely, Seattle has long had a very active book bike community at the library there, which to me is wild, like the hilliest, the hilliest city, but incredible bike culture in Seattle. So that's great. Yeah, like you mentioned, a lot of delivery services. There was I mentioned the Alethea Tanner story time that we do. And last summer, towards the end of, I think it was probably August or September, there was a woman there with a coffee cart set up. So it was a cargo bike that had a full, it was almost like the icon from the slide that just like had the little rooftop over it, and she had her whole like cold brew like taps, and it was amazing. So that's an interesting application that I've heard of but have not seen in person is like a city, I'm blanking on the word, like a tourist stand, like an information for here's your flyers that you might want about, here's how to get around town. So just kind of a pop-up info spot that you could have in a really active tourist area. So I could envision that being very useful on the mall, for example, or like outside of a metro, to help point people in the right direction, just like ask us here. Which is kind of what we're trying to accomplish with the library one too. We did the first summer that we had the bike, we did these Ask a Librarian pop-ups in Chinatown Park over at 6th and I. And we just had the bike set up and a little tent, and just did on the spot reference questions for folks, as well as having books that they could check out, and library card signups, of course. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think there's just so many different ways to use a cargo bike, and it starts great conversations. Like Liliana said, I don't know that I have ever been riding the book bike and not had somebody shout at me, "You got ice cream?" So, it starts conversations even while you're in transit, and it's a lot of fun.